Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there and having a great start to your day. Great weekend so far. Got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today. Not really an active day at all. In fact, I wouldn't even put the word active in today. It's just going to be a pretty chill day, but really, I would enjoy it because I do think as we get, I would say, towards about the middle part of this work week, this coming work week, it's going to get much more active. Severe weather will become the big topic in these videos, and then some snow in the northern part of the country, and we'll definitely talk about that too. And there's going to be the potential for just a very active pattern. A lot of people could see a lot of rain over the next 10 days. So we'll give you an update on that in the second half of the video. We'll get pretty detailed on that, so it should help a lot of people out for this week. Of course, the details on the severe weather is still a little foggy. You guys know that we got to get a little bit closer to these severe weather events. It's not like winter weather where we can fine-tune things the closer we get. Severe weather, we really don't truly know the true evolution of the kind of the storm mode, if you will, until we get about 48 hours out when we can get inside of these short-range models. We have an idea, but we really start to see it as we get into these NAM and HRRR models. But regardless, we'll figure it out for you folks. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and then it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Let's get rolling this morning. Water vapor loop. I mean, most of the country is pretty chill this morning. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on. I think some rain will enter Florida probably a little bit later this afternoon, maybe dealing with some showers out there right now, but really dry, cold air is kind of dominating most of the central and eastern U.S., but quickly a ridge will take back over the eastern U.S. as we get into about, I would say, Tuesday and Wednesday. But if you look back here to the west, there's a fire hose of moisture going into the western U.S., especially California. This has been big. I know a lot of people have seen how much snow the mountains in California have got, the Sierra Nevada. It's been unreal. One day I'll go out there and experience something like that. But of course, this year is certainly one of those just years where it's well above average. Some areas have gotten so much snow that the snow is actually reaching the chairlifts, which, you know, obviously are pretty high up in the air. So there's so much of a snowpack that it's coming to these chairlifts that are in the air. So, I mean, it's pretty wild to think about. But you're going to get more. You got winter storm warnings ongoing. And this will be kind of the driver of a lot of energy that kind of moves into the western U.S. and then shoots across the middle of the country. We just have to see the positioning of these low pressures, which dictate what kind of weather that we get in certain areas of the country. Watches and warnings, advisories, freeze warnings continue, and they will stay here all the way from, the Dallas-Fort Worth area all the way up to southeast Virginia. So freezing temperatures, sub-freezing temperatures right now for a lot of people. We expect another freezing night tonight, especially areas a little bit further east. But, winter weather advisories still remain for you folks up here in New York State, Wayne County, and Cleveland also. So, I mean, this is kind of a calm day, relatively a calm day. So definitely take advantage of it. Just a chilly day, very chilly. Southeast today, we'll end up going through this pretty quick because there's not a whole lot to talk on. But, most of the day is pretty quiet. Most of the area is pretty quiet. But then we get into, I would say, later this afternoon into this evening, some rain begins to enter the west coast of Florida. And basically, you guys kind of, you stick out pretty far south, which is you kind of stick out right into the active jet. And this high pressure up here is actually suppressing this jet south. But like I said, you folks in Florida, you kind of stick out south, kind of like the southern areas of Texas did yesterday with the snow you guys got. And of course, you're not cold enough for snow down here in Florida, but you're going to get a lot of rain as we get into tonight and then the overnight hours. I would say anywhere from probably, I would say an hour south of Jacksonville Point south could see rain tonight, and it'll fall most of the night on and off. Some downpours are possible, and rain between now and the next 24 hours. Certain areas could get just a tenth of an inch of rain, maybe a quarter inch, maybe a half an inch of rain. This is not going to be certainly just a washout overnight. But if you like a rainy night here in Florida, I think you'll get it tonight. So there's that. We keep moving forward here, and we look at the northeast, some lingering lake effect snow off Lake Erie in Ontario. But I think this will diminish, I would say, as we get into this afternoon. But then you'll get kind of what happened in the Great Lakes region yesterday. You'll kind of get that happen again, but in Maine and northern sections of the Northeast, where you'll just get scattered snow showers, snow squally kind of weather up here in Maine and maybe even northern Vermont and New Hampshire. Some flurries might drift all the way into southern New England. It's certainly possible. But then all of this will diminish overnight to maybe some leftover flurries. Snow between now and the next 24 hours. You know, you could still get another couple inches here. I would say an hour off the eastern shoreline of Lake Ontario. But where these snow showers can pop off, you know, you might can get a quick dusting on your front porch, some car surfaces, metal surfaces, cold surfaces, but not a big deal. Just be careful if you're out driving. This might hit you all of a sudden, but I think you guys can handle the snow up here in this part of the country. South Central U.S., the winter storm. For these sections right here in far southwest Florida, chills out, and it's saw some of the pictures down here. It was pretty wild, but you know, you had to be pretty deep down here in these higher hills and elevation driven kind of areas in southwest. I think I called it Florida. I'm really bad about calling Texas Florida for whatever reason. But if I don't say it out loud, I'm right on the verge of saying it before I catch myself internally. So southwest areas of Texas. I think you're dealing with a little bit of snow right now, but it'll diminish, and then some more showers will drift into far southern sections of Texas, which, by the way, will be back into the 90s here in the next few days. But a cold, cool kind of drizzle-like rain here later this morning into the afternoon hours, and then it'll diminish. And then the rest of the day, guys, and really everybody else, 99% of the rest of the country, of this area, is pretty chill. There's just not a whole lot going on. And to set the stage of what I think is going to be an active period where you'll get kind of impulses of energy that fires off the mountains of the western U.S., the Rockies, things like that. But moving up to the north central U.S., an even calmer day. Nothing going on. Finally, you guys just get a day where there's really no snow falling unless you're up here in areas of Canada. But nothing going on. This is through the next 24 hours. But definitely, like I said, take advantage of today, even though it's going to be very, very cold for mid-late March standards, because I do think we're going to have a lot of energy flying up through this area this week for sure. Temperatures today, I wouldn't say it's very, very cold up here. The core of the coldest air mass begins to shift a little bit east, but you're still going to be in the 30s up here. Certain areas won't get above freezing. The mountains, the southern Appalachian Mountains, if you're a few thousand feet up in the air, you're not going to get above freezing. They're going for the Cumberland Plateau. Might not make it above freezing today. That's pretty cold. So we'll see what happens. 30s for Tennessee. I think it'll get a little bit warmer than what this is showing, but a pretty cold day in the Ohio Valley Midwest, but not as cold as yesterday. But the Northeast will be really froze up today. Boston will struggle to get above freezing. New York City, maybe the upper 30s, near 40. And then once you get inland, these higher hills and elevation, you guys won't get above freezing. Some areas won't get out of the 20s. So pretty chilly day. Even down here in Florida, you got to get all the way near Miami to get really close to 80 degrees. So moving forward here, we'll spend some time on this. There's a 15% risk of severe storms for Thursday. Okay, so that's a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 for day 5. Okay, this will tweak some. Will it be more of a day threat, overnight threat? We're just not quite sure. Okay, but we know if you're in Oklahoma and areas of North Texas, maybe even in Arkansas, day 5, which is this coming Thursday, could be active. Day 6, bigger area, obviously when low pressure moves downstream, moves east, whether it's ejecting across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-South. What they do know is they're confident that there'll still be severe weather with a lot of shear in place for a 15% risk of severe weather stretching all the way from a small section of southeast Texas all the way up to like Nashville, Tennessee. Okay, this includes, I would say, just about 85-90% of the state of Mississippi, a large portion of Alabama, 50% of the state, including Birmingham, up to Chattanooga, Memphis, Jackson, Mississippi. So we know severe weather is going to become a big topic as we get here in the next couple of days, because the details will get fine-tuned. We'll start to figure out what's going to happen. Are we going to have a huge severe weather event? I would lean towards no, but that could change, guys, so stay tuned. So what we do know is if we look at the central part of the country, We'll start this off for tomorrow evening. It's still pretty quiet, but here comes our first low pressure. This kind of moves in. It's a weaker one. This will bring some rain to Missouri, snow for areas north of the low pressure. It's very weak, so you can barely see it right in here. Okay, some snow for, the Dakotas, Minnesota. I mean, even for this time of the year, it's starting to get kind of late in the season, so it's not hard, but it's more difficult to achieve snow further south, even up here in the Midwest. But we get into Tuesday evening. This could be a snow event. Could deliver several inches of snow, or maybe just a few inches of snow for areas of South Dakota, Minnesota, maybe even North Dakota, maybe even Wisconsin. This will move through and get into Wednesday morning. It could get quite heavy. The same areas that saw a lot of snow, a few days ago up here in northern Minnesota could get some more snow again. This moves through. That clears on out. And here comes our next system. We're getting into Wednesday evening. And this could bring snow a little bit further south and getting into northern Nebraska, southern areas of South Dakota. But in general, it's still all the snow is confined to the northern areas. At the same time, each low pressure brings in that low-level moisture and creates a pretty massive sector of warm, moist air to the south of these low pressures. Okay? But to the north, you're going to have snow chances. Okay? It's just trying to figure out the axis of the heaviest winter precipitation. That's going to be, the key. But that flies through, okay, bringing a lot of rain to the south, bringing severe weather chances to the south. And now here comes our, Friday threat. Here comes another impulse of energy right here. This moves through. And then you got to watch as we're getting to about 6-7 days out. Another system tries to brew up. Now this is 7 days out. But this one looks a little bit more powerful, and this brings snow further south as we're getting into the last days of March. Okay, but we don't know if there's going to be snow in Chicago. We all know that it's been very hard to snow in Chicago this year. The only events you've managed to get, these are these little events where it snows like 1 to 2 inches at most. So, but we will watch a system about 8 to 9 days out for Chicago for a late season system, winter weather-wise for you guys. Same thing with the European guys. I mean, they're kind of in agreement that there will be multiple pieces of energy. First one comes through Tuesday afternoon, flies through the northern plains, only brings snow for areas of the Dakotas and northern Minnesota, and then maybe the UP and Michigan. That moves on out. We get into Wednesday evening. Here comes another system getting into Thursday morning. It's a little bit more weaker, just flatter, and then the jet rejuvenates itself, if you will. More active times Thursday evening. This is when we watch for some severe weather somewhere around in here. This just looks all over the place, though, so we need to figure out how this is really going to form. We're getting to overnight Thursday and a Friday morning. So one of these low pressures is going to be the dominant low pressure. Snow falling in Kansas, March 24th. It's not totally uncommon, but, we get this low pressure that begins to deepen. We got to watch severe weather to the south. But I can tell you, the only agreement with the Euro and GFS is that we're going to have multiple pieces of energy providing rain, severe weather, and even some winter weather for areas further south. But there's no agreement about the placement of these low pressures, really. It's all over the place. But, this would bring snow Friday night into Chicago, and this is outside. And then here comes the other system that GFS shows, but it's all kind of weak and strung out and doesn't do anything. Okay, and I know I didn't show the eastern U.S., but for the eastern U.S., it's even a bigger question. These systems are going to come through the central U.S. first, so we know more, even though we don't know a lot about these areas first. So what we do know is it's going to warm up across everybody in the southeast, the eastern U.S. in general. But what we do know is each low pressure that kind of moves through the middle of the country, this helps to yank southerly winds out the south. So this will bring moist air. So these are not temperatures. These are dew points. So once you get dew points, I would say above 55 degrees, you start to feel a little bit more moist. But once you're starting to get in the 60s, that's when you say, okay, I can feel a little juice to the atmosphere. But watch what happens. Each low pressure moves through, brings in moist air. And because you have a continuous flow of low pressures, you got a continuous pool of this low-level moisture out the south. So you stop this about midday Wednesday, you got dew points in the eastern half of Texas rising well into the 60s, all the way up into Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas. And then as a stronger low pressure pulls in, an even deeper pool of moisture gets gets put into this area of the country, the south central U.S. I mean, and it's stretching all the way up into the Ohio Valley. You got dew points well into the 60s for a large chunk of Texas. So a huge moist sector right here building into the area. And you keep this going here. You're getting into, if you hear my cat scratching on the door, she wants to be in here with me, but I had to keep her out because she was just all over the place. But Thursday afternoon, you got dew points rising well into the upper 60s, all the way up into Oklahoma, 60s into Arkansas, 60s into southern Missouri. So you get into Thursday afternoon, which, by the way, is a day that the Storm Prediction Center is saying is going to be an active day for severe weather. One of the ingredients that we look at this far out, I would say, is arguably the first ingredient we look at is, do we have moisture return, which is a return of higher dew points, a return of humidity. That's going to be there. This is going to build steadily throughout the week. And once we get into Thursday, we have a huge area of some pretty high dew points built into this area. I mean, even all the way up into Pennsylvania, the southern tier of New York State, dew points are rising into the 50s, which is still relatively dry. But it's still a much more, definitely moist air for sure. But, we get into Friday, same kind of deal. There'll be some kind of boundary right into here, a cold front, a trailing cold front that will aid in a lot of shear. We get into Friday, very moist air all the way up into southern Kentucky. And then this will move, cold front will crash in, and then the moist air will try to build right back in early next week. But, that's getting pretty far out. But I think we're still going to have cold fronts, guys. There's still indications that we could still have some cool shots, but certainly the later we get, these cool shots are less potent. So that's what we do know. And with that, with just, another way to look at these little kind of shots of energy right here that brings a lot of precipitation is the low-level jet. Each system that kind of moves in, it brings its own little low-level jet, and here it is. But of course, if you're lacking thermodynamics, these low-level jets don't mean a whole lot except breezy conditions. But this moves through. Here's the first little system right here, bringing some winds that'll probably mix to the surface right into here. And then you start to get into Thursday morning. Here's a big-time low-level jet right here. Winds pushing 40, 50 knots. We have to watch with some severe weather down here, especially, are we going to have a combination of kinematics or thermodynamics right here in the south central U.S.? It's a tough call, but we won't know that kind of information until we get a couple days closer. But then we get into Friday morning. Here it is, big time low-level jet firing off over the mid-south. Is it overlapped by some intense thermodynamics, higher temperatures, dew points? It's a tough call. We got to figure it out. But what we do know is with each little impulse of energy, each low pressure, when I say an impulse of energy, I like using the word energy a lot. It's a low pressure, a surface low, firing off the base of this upper trough. And you got to really watch as we get into this weekend. This could be a big system for the eastern U.S., okay, but we just don't know the details yet. Okay, what I can tell you is there's going to be a lot of rain coming up. With all of this energy flying across the middle of the country, south of these low pressures in general, there's going to be a lot of rain. So, across the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, the Mid-South, throughout the next 10 days, I would say, anywhere from 2 to 3, as much as 4 inches of rain from Arkansas all the way to Ohio, maybe even western Pennsylvania. So you got to watch these areas. This could shift north. This could shift back south. We also got to watch snow. With all these low pressures kind of going in general kind of this way, there's enough cold air up here, even this time of the year, for snow still. So the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, even areas in Nebraska, watch out Iowa, you're still under the gun for possible, snowstorms. No, not all of them is going to be an all-out snowstorm, but just kind of snowy kind of days or just snowy storms in general. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and I have you an update this evening. God bless.